Today, I'd like to go over some of the biggest video game leaks and their stories over the years, starting off strong with Half-Life 2 in 2002. Axel Gembe, a 19-year-old German fan of Valve, was wondering if there would ever be a sequel to the amazing game Half-Life. But with Valve practically staying silent about any news regarding its sequel at the time, he decided to see if he could find anything himself. He didn't really expect to get anywhere, but fortunately for him, Valve's name server allowed for anonymous AXFR requests to be sent. I don't understand hacking lingo, but long story short, he was able to not only find information to prove Half-Life 2 did in fact exist, but he was also able to literally take the entire source code of the game, including pieces of content that wouldn't even be a part of the final game once released. The leak would later surface and be uploaded onto the web a week before the official game's release, and is more commonly known today as the Half-Life 2 beta, because that's technically what it was. Not even an early build of the game, basically the same build that would actually be released. It was pretty clear to everyone that the game was probably not in a state to be released, and this leak was basically the wake-up call Valve needed to delay the game and give it more time, which is why the final release date for Half-Life 2 was November of 2004, well over a year later. That wasn't the only thing Valve did. In fact, Gabe New himself sent out a hit for Gembe. Maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but he was asking the community to literally find him in the real world if possible. Funnily enough, Gembe called Valve and not only apologized but also asked for a job there, claiming he only hacked them out of love and respect for them, not for malicious intentions. I genuinely do not know what made him think that was going to ever work. Maybe in some reality he's working for Valve right now, maybe even on Half-Life 3, but in this one he was later arrested in Germany, mainly due to other hacking related crimes, as this wasn't his first rodeo. It's also said that this leak was the main reason Valve isn't and never will be motivated to work on Half-Life 3, but who's to say? Anyways, that story was quite a roller coaster, but let's move 7 years past the release of Half-Life 2 all the way to 2011 with leaks surrounding Mass Effect 3. Those of you Xbox gamers know that you are able to sign up for access to beta updates and features, one of them being for the Xbox Live dashboard. Though that's about all you were supposed to be receiving, it seems that one Microsoft employee must have been a little tipsy after a party and accidentally marked an early build of Mass Effect 3 meant only for internal beta testing as public, allowing for anyone on this beta dashboard to actually download the game. After that entire fiasco, not only were cutscenes and game mechanics leaked online, but also the entire fucking script of the game was put into a Google Docs. Apparently a lot of fans actually didn't really like what they saw, mainly from the story, which must have been honestly a huge sigh of relief for the developers, because at least they got accidental feedback and were able to make the right changes to the game, though most of the game was going to be changed regardless, considering this was still an early build. And although I originally thought the main story changed, it seems like that was the one thing they practically kept the same, with only like minor dialogue changes around the end. So I mean, they didn't really take the feedback into consideration as much as I thought. And it's also quite funny how one man can easily and accidentally fuck over an entire game studio. Moving on, we have leaks regarding GTA 5 back in 2011, and even slightly after the game's release in September of 2013. One leak was regarding a casting call, with this nice little table showing us the characters put up on the call and their final names once the game released. And Sony, not wanting to be outdone by Microsoft, decided that it was their turn to fuck up. European gamers that had pre-ordered the game found themselves able to download some of the files and assets as they became available, and thanks to that, assets found themselves on the web and Sony found themselves writing an apology. One last bit I found quite funny was that a little after the game release, some people found it pretty difficult to earn money in online and wondered why that was, and their question was answered when someone found references to shark cards in the game files. Although many people prayed it was a fake leak, they found out the hard way that it was unfortunately real when shark cards were added into the game on December of 2013. Many gamers and their parents' wallets cried that day. Anyways, moving on, we have the amazing No Man's Sky in 2016. I think we all know No Man's Sky, a hugely overpromised game that was extremely underdelivered, though I guess it's fine now. But in 2016, leaks began getting a little cuckoo when a Redditor admitted to paying $1,300 for an early copy of the game. Early by 2 weeks, mind you, he couldn't just wait 2 weeks. He even shared an explanation to justify his spending, which basically boiled down to because I wanted to. He gave an honest review and actually ended up finishing the game in like 30 hours, basically destroying the claim that it would take hundreds upon hundreds of hours to actually finish in this grand vast universe. And as people's worries about the game began growing, retailers decided to add to the fire by selling the game ahead of its release. Some news sites and and journalists decided to go out of their way and buy their own copies of the game instead of waiting for their review copy, if they were even going to get any in the first place. And since they were technically allowed to buy the game, it technically wasn't illegal for them to upload gameplay and leak information, with Kotaku just outright streaming the game still before release. This was terrible, not only for the gamers that were now spoiled, but also for Hello Games, considering the game wasn't necessarily anything close to what was promised. The weirdest part of this entire thing was that the leaked clips and whatnot were uploaded to YouTube, but obviously were taken down. But of course, some people couldn't help themselves and felt the need to spread the information however they could. So some of them went onto fucking Pornhub to upload clips there instead. The leaks weren't the only disaster No Man's Sky faced that year, but let's move on from that and take a look at Nintendo's turn to have a little fuck up with the Nintendo Gigaleak from 2018 to 2021. The word Gigaleak refers to a series of public leaks that amounted to a couple of gigabytes, though it's rumored that all the files found were well over 2 terabytes. Though it's not 100% confirmed, all this information was most likely stolen by hacker Zamis Clark, who infiltrated both Nintendo and Microsoft servers around the time frame right before the leaks began circulating. The leaks contained source code for many of Nintendo's old consoles, such as the GameCube, Wii, and Nintendo 64. There were also bits of lost or forgotten media, such as a design for a portable GameCube console, which would have just looked like the Nintendo Switch that we have now, and the Wii's startup disc, which was a disc that was supposed to install the necessary files for your Wii, though it wasn't really necessary, which is why practically no physical copies exist at all anymore. There were also a bunch of unused game assets, such as Luigi giving the finger to the player, cancelled games such as Star Fox 2, and games that were seemingly different in early versions, like Yoshi's Island, which used to be known as Super Donkey, and also this horrific looking Yoshi. God, these legs, what the fuck. There was also an official 3D model of Luigi found for Mario 64, confirming that the game was to originally be a co-op multiplayer sort of game. There's obviously so much more in this entire leak, but to go over everything would make this video 5 years long, so let's just move on to probably the single biggest leak in gaming history: Insomniac's Wolverine. I bet you thought I was about to say GTA 6, get fucked. But in all seriousness, the difference between these two leaks are so vast that it's not even comparable. Long story short, a hacker stole data from Insomniac, including confidential employee information and Wolverine source code, and held it for a $2 million ransom. Of course, they got nothing, and would later release and or sell the data they stole, instantly launching Wolverine into the limelight for the wrong reasons. As people began watching Wolverine in all its low poly, low texture, and wonky glory, some dumbasses believed that this is what the game would look like upon release, ruining the game's public perception because people don't understand the concept of development, pretty similar to GTA 6. However, unlike GTA 6, an actual downloadable file of the game was released onto the internet, and those downloading it found themselves with a nice little DMCA violation notice from their ISP, and those using a VPN either found themselves with some malware or playing an actual early build of the game, with someone even making a working Scarlet Witch mod. Before the game even has a fucking release date, there are already mods. Holy shit. Don't go looking for the file. I doubt at this point that it's still even up anywhere. You're either most likely going to only download viruses or malware, or you'll be visiting the judge pretty soon. I wouldn't put it past Sony to take you all the way to the Supreme Court. But that's about it for this video. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below something funny, I don't know. I've been an unused video game asset, you've been watching a leaked video, and ciao ciao.